Okay. Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If I can, we are joined by Lou Ensel is joining us by phone, and Bill Perkins will be joining us shortly by phone. So, item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks. Item 3.0, comments from the chair. I don't have lengthy comments. I'm sure everyone is a sigh of relief over that. But I do want to say that I appreciate the effort from the board. I think our discussion at the special meeting was a really productive one, a fruitful one, and I think that is in part due to the fact that you all come prepared to participate, to discuss the issues in front of us. And I just know from my experience on the board, I've been here 8 years now, I think. We are involved in a very, obviously a very serious issue with a lot of material is coming at you. We're getting a lot of comment from the public. And I do appreciate the effort that the board members are showing on this. And like I said, the fact that you all come prepared for discussion at each meeting really makes it a very productive endeavor. So thank everyone for that. We do have some action items on the agenda. I just want to point those out to anyone who's listening in. And I think all the action items we have tonight appear under old business. We'll be adopting 3 or 4 policies on second reading. But those should be the only action items for tonight's meeting. Okay, item 4.0, approval and amendment of minutes. We have minutes from September 21st, September 30th, and then Vita, by email after the packet went out, sent minutes from the special meeting of October 20th. If it's okay, we'll take them all together. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay, we have a motion from Jen, a second. Okay, a second by Megan. Any corrections, changes? Yep.
I want a clarification.
Sure.
And I didn't look back and research it, so Katie, you can probably answer it. In between the 2 meetings, between the 21st and the 26th or the 20th, I'm sorry, let me see, 21st and the 26th, the numbers of staff survey, one says 175 and one says 186 for those that it went to. So on page 3, on the October 1st, I'm sorry, it says 175. And then on page, I have it.
I'm guessing one is the number of staff total, and then one is when we went back in and actually looked at the number
Of
of
those
who, yeah,
that actually
yeah.
got,
Yeah,
Got it.
I can go in and check for you though.
Yeah, that
Make
was
sure it's the
my
right one in both spots.
question,
Sure.
between the 2.
I can look right now and make sure she has that updated.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
then on page 3, on October 1st as well, the 4th paragraph, I'm wondering where it says, staff felt that having more students in the classroom would be more difficult to keep 3 feet apart while taking math breaks. I'm wondering if that's supposed to say 6. And again, I don't know, it's a technicality, but
It should say 6.
that was one thing I was.
What page is that one?
Page 3, October 1st.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph.
So we're gonna change that to,
Okay, you're on there, you can speak, you're not muted.
Yeah, we can.
okay, we'll make that change. To 6. Well,
We should have,
We can make the adjustment.
Yeah.
if it's actually-
Okay, so we have one change to the October 1st meeting,
Meeting's on.
Can you hear it?
3 feet to 6 feet. All right, any other corrections or changes to those minutes?
You know, I did have one more, Steve, on the 21st on the back page. And again, I'm just not current with my numbers, but it says, on very top, page 6, on the 21st. 76% of the $20 million budget. This is talking about the high. Do you think that? And I was just wondering if that number was,
What page is this?
page 6 on the 21st, on the very back page. For the financial report.
That's for the high school, 20, budget for the new high school distance spend.
76% of the $20 million budget. So maybe that was on the local.
Just a local share.
I'll double check that, but yeah, I see what you're talking about.
You have a number? What's that, please?
they all should be 186, I just checked.
So that was it.
Okay, we'll check that number on the million, but I think that references the local share of high school contract. And 186, where is that change from?
For first, I think? Yeah, on minutes of October 1st, 186 would be the third paragraph down instead of 175.
Okay, so can we, will you amend your,
Approve them as amended.
and
I'll second.
Okay,
Second.
so, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Objections? No. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you have to ask the two select board people on the phone for their vote if necessary.
I guess I do, you're absolutely right. Bill? Bill?
Hello there.
Hi there. We need your vote on the minutes. We're on agenda item 4.0. You approve the minutes as amended.
Yay, yes.
Okay, Lou?
Yes.
Okay, if you guys could just shout off, that way I won't have to remember to keep asking you, okay? When we talk to
No,
you.
that's fine. I did when you first said it, but I don't know if anyone heard me. So I'll do it again next time.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Item 5.0, adjustments to the agenda. Patrick, do you have anything? Item 6.0 is public session. We are doing a call-in tonight, but we received no requests for people to join us. I find that a little bit surprising, but that's okay. I don't know if the information on how to contact us was included in the minutes, as I believe. And if our information is incorrect and people are trying to reach us, hopefully they can. But we do not have any requests for people to publicly address the board.
Sure.
Uh,
Could we do this again next meeting as well? Is this something? we
Yes,
can
we're gonna continue with this.
Okay, so
Hopefully with maybe some change in technology.
I don't know, not by that time. I mean, I think Dean and his group felt like, from a sound perspective, that this would work well, so.
We'll adopt this going forward. Yeah. Item 7.0, committee reports, 7.1, building project update. Patrick?
Yeah, again, you have the nice colorful in your backup from Kyler. But just a lot of taping, sanding, painting, garage door installation in the automotive is quite impressive to look at. A lot of flooring, the lockers are in, so the lockers that will go in the hallways is locked, as well as the lockers in the locker rooms in the gym area. Ductwork, finished plumbing is going on, lighting in the classrooms. The athletic fields are back. The fencing, the black fence has gone in around both athletic fields and above the athletic fields where the ledge is. Trees will be planted out in front of the building where by the drop-off area. We'll have trees planted on Wednesday of this week. And some of our student athletes got to use the turf field last week. And it seemed like it was a good level of excitement there. And we have a building committee meeting tomorrow at noon. We haven't met for a little while, and just to provide an update to everybody and also offer a tour afterwards at 1 o'clock for anybody that would like to come up and take a tour. We were excited to get 2 more donations last week, I'm sorry. And so that, is always very generous of those people, as well as very much appreciated that will go towards the project. So questions that anyone has? And also on the gym area, if you drive by tomorrow, you would notice that the M is on the outside as well as on the back. The Clipper ship is up there as well. So those went up this weekend. So again, it's starting to become very real when you walk through the building, and it's exciting.
Any questions of Patrick?
Are we on schedule still, tentatively, or are we still
Yeah,
ballpark?
yeah. I mean, the end of December is what Harvey is still feeling. Everything would be ready. The priority is on the classrooms. It's on the academic wing and the CTE wing, the shop areas as well. I think if there were a couple places that were after the classrooms, would be possibly the theater, cosmetology, because that program would not start until the following year, and possibly, part of we have 2 gyms. One of the gyms is going to, maybe more like middle of January. That's what they're telling us right now. But as far as end of December for all of our classroom areas is still a goal, and they feel it's going along well.
And there's, amid of all the things that we're trying to deal with now, there's a planning process in place to how to get teachers and stuff and kids and everything over there, and
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, we've got a plan. We just, it may need to be adjusted, a little bit, but again, we're still looking at February as that transition time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We have had a conversation with the city of Bath regarding the transition, so it's not necessarily drop dead, if the moving lapses, well, I shouldn't say lapses, but if it doesn't go off as planned, we're not going to be on the street, so. Lorna?
I was just Patrick, we take ownership in December, is that when that happens?
Substantial completion, yeah, and then, punch list would be done prior to, doing that. So again, if there was a piece of the building that wasn't done, then we would, have to punch list that after the fact.
And then security, once we take ownership, is there, what is our, because I know we had 2 incidents on construction. Do we have, I forget, are cameras in the budget, or is it just?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of technology all around the building as far as, cameras and just technology in general. And in the office area, but all around the outside of the building as well. And then also a connection to the local authorities if something were to happen.
Any other questions, Patrick? Thank you. Thanks, Patrick. Item 8.0, student board representative report. Tanner.
All right, so students, or seniors rather, should be finishing up their common apps right now. Well, should be close to finishing up their common apps right now. Most early decision deadlines are coming up, the next couple of weeks, so those are decision, early decision, and early action that really should be done. Grades 9, 10, and 11 had PSATs the last 2 Wednesdays, so that's freshmen, juniors, sophomore, junior. Spirit Week has been last week and this week for Morris. It's split up to 2 weeks just so that cohorts don't have 2 days of Spirit Week. So yeah, that one there should be more time to celebrate. Brightspace learning is obviously getting, better and better as we learn and get more comfortable with it. So it's starting to feel like we're more familiar with it, significantly more familiar with it. The first quarter closes November 6th. Last check for grades, really. You gotta finish out the quarter strong.
What's the general morale of the senior class? Might be more of your focus, but of the school generally.
My classes, like the teachers and students have created an environment for my classes that's pretty different, honestly, and pretty the way it has been before pre-COVID. I mean, there's not this looming, darkness in the classroom. It feels quite normal.
I've noticed too, I drive by the school on occasion and notice that they're rehearsing the play out on the front in the school, so it's good to see.
Yeah.
And the kids are out there, and Kevin O'Leary's out there with them. There is a touching morality there. It's good.
Yeah, I know Peter.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Tanner. Any questions of Tanner? Yeah, Jen?
Tanner, do you feel that there's a big change in your expectation to be able to work independently? I think that's one of the things that it depends on how old you are and how independent you're used to working, that now with how the hybrid model or distance learning, it changes. Do you feel like you and your peers were kind of, that part of the change, like, okay, you're a little less someone next to you kind of guiding you so much?
Yeah. I think the more harsh change was from, way back in March when we went full distance and then we were totally independent.
Yeah.
So for returning students this year, it's been kind of we're more used to it. I don't have the freshmen say how this is going really, but I know it hasn't been, we don't feel, left to our own devices at all.
That's good.
Yeah.
I wonder how this is going to change the first year in college, like especially if you're distance learning, or that, it's usually a big transition from high school to college in terms of how your academic professors have a tendency what they expect out of you. And I remember, even though it was a million years ago, that was a lot more independent work. I wonder how this is going to help with that.
Yeah, I do. I think I obviously don't know what college is like, but what I've heard from my parents, people who have been in college, this is good. Practice, warm up.
Yeah.
Dry run,
Yeah. That's good. Thanks.
We did not plan this, though.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative of the question, Jen, and the comment that, there's perhaps another potential good that comes out of what is not a good situation generally. Okay, thanks, Tanner. 9.0, update on reopening. Patrick?
Yeah, we planned just to kind of touch on a few items tonight under this. I know it wasn't, one specific agenda item, but I thought we'd first maybe just start with Sandra. She's on the call here. I went down for 8:45 this morning and, just visited for a few minutes, and everything seemed to go well. All the buses brought the kids and everything went smooth. But Sandra, are you there?
I am here.
So can you just kind of tell us how the rest of the day went?
Sure. It went very well. We had a pretty smooth entry, and the kids did a great job. They were really on top of socially distancing. The buses came at about 2:55, and we were loaded up, and they were gone a little after 3. Parents were very patient. John Skrosky was there both in the morning and the afternoon helping with traffic. I did have a chance to talk to the teachers after the day had ended, and they were completely exhausted. It it was just like having the first day of school again. And you could notice that as I walked into different classrooms, just hearing the conversations about routines. But overall, it went very well, and we were pleased. We did have a couple of students who were nervous about coming back fully, but by the time I saw them at snack time, tears were gone, people were smiling. So I think today went very well. We do appreciate the fact that we had an extra custodian during the lunchtime, because it did take a while to get all those tables wiped off. But I think as we practice our routines and our procedures, things will get better.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra.
Before I let Patrick move on, are there any specific questions for Sandra? Well, thanks, Sandra. I hope you're documenting this experience as well as you can, because I think we're gonna use that experience that you're involved in right now to help shape our response to reopening our other schools. Sounds good.
I certainly will. Thank you. And thank you for your confidence.
Thanks. Patrick, sorry.
With our other three elementary schools and principals, we continue to meet regularly. As of noon today, we had 5 ed tech applications and 3 teaching applications. They were all put out at right after the last board meeting that we had. So principals are in close communication with central office Anne Marie to look through those applications. Also, again, we've tried to spread the word in a lot of different locations as far as the openings that we have. So we're moving on those as quickly as we can to make sure to see if there's viable options and candidates there. YMCA, Sandra's still on the line here if you have questions on this one, because she's kind of taken the lead with this. But as of November 2nd, we will be assisting families with childcare, through the partnership with the Y. And just want to thank Sandra and also Deb Young from the Y for making that happen. And again, it's using CARES money, and that again will go through the end of December to be able to try to help families that have this situation as a result of their children not being in school on the hybrid days.
Thank you to everybody who has been involved in that. I know how important that is, and just appreciate helping our folks with that kind of service.
Advisory committees, we've had one meeting with pre-K to 5 and one meeting with grades 6 through 12, and Vita set those up for November and December as well. And the plan is to meet monthly. And again, a lot of good feedback from parents and staff and students, middle school students and high school students, as far as things that are going well, like Tanner talked about tonight, but also the challenges with, let it be Brightspace, let it be remote learning, things in general. And so it's helpful to us to be able for me to take that in, process it, and then also talk with other appropriate personnel in the district to help concerns that they might have. And then lastly, the thing we have under reopening is Bob, Jordan, and Dean are on, but I'll pass it on to Katie right now to kind of introduce a quick presentation they're going to do about Brightspace.
Sure. So, I think Tanner has already talked about it tonight, and it's come up a couple of times in some of our other conversations. And so just wanted to give the board a quick overview about, essentially what the platform does, what training has been done on it so far, what's going well, and what we want to continue to improve on, because I think most of hasn't been without bumps because of the speed at which we had to roll it out, which normally wouldn't be the case if we weren't in a pandemic. So I'm going to hand it over to Bob, and he's going to highlight those 4 topics tonight. And then Dean's also here to clarify anything that might come up, or myself, because Bob is more focused with the teacher piece and not as much as the parent piece as Dean and I might be. Okay, go ahead, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Bob Jordan. I'm the tech integrator in RSU1 for grades 6 to 8, but I've been working a fair amount with everybody as we've started in on Brightspace. I'm going to share my screen. I've put together a little presentation, and I also shared a link to that in the chat so that you can, take a look at it there and, at another time. So here we are, and oops. And present. Okay, everybody seeing my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, Katie set me up very well with the main topics of this presentation, Brightspace, our learning management system. And so Brightspace is really a response to concerns that we heard from a significant number of students and parents last spring when we went to distance learning. Many of them had trouble getting to the materials they needed to be successful in school. So Brightspace is really designed to help with that, to help give students and families easy access to their materials. Parents, particularly parents who had more than one child, they were looking for one place in a relatively consistent format where they could see, what their students were up to. There's something called the activity feed where teachers post what's going on in their classroom. And they'd also see work and assignments and some feedback on work as well. Brightspace is designed to give students a centralized, consistent access to all their classes and school materials instead of having to go lots of different places to find things. Maybe one-stop shopping was the idea. The end of last school year, a committee of teachers, administrators, some tech staff, started looking into learning management systems to address these challenges. And we picked Brightspace and we embarked on accelerated deployment this fall. The professional development, now sort of understanding that we really, we went with a rapid deployment to meet an immediate need. We're hybrid, who knows if we'll be in distance learning before long. Sort of waiting a semester, I think might not have met some immediate needs, so we've moved forward. The system that we picked has a steep learning curve. There's really a lot to it, and a lot of the old ways of doing things, we're not doing those anymore. And we also have a number of different schools with different grade levels, different practices, different needs, and we're all trying to unify under one system. For the training, we tried to set up kind of a sequenced expectations from initially just posting basic materials, communicating with the class, and then moving over time to more complicated things. At the beginning of the school year, we were fortunate to have several additional days of professional development, both for Brightspace and lots of other changes that teachers were facing. The model that we did for this is we selected a couple teachers from each school to be the trainers. And all those teachers, met in August with a Brightspace trainer. And the idea was to have them get the jump and then run the professional development in each school. So some training during the summer, and then during those PD days, a significant amount of time was taken towards, building these initial expectations. Since then, Late Start Wednesdays, there have been opportunities for additional professional development around Brightspace, and that's kind of worked differently in different schools depending upon their needs or priorities. Again, this has often been led by the teachers in the building with support from tech staff as needed. Along the way, there's been lots of opportunities for troubleshooting and one-to-one support. The teacher trainers in the buildings have done a great job, and then folks in the tech department have done that as well. And some of that work has involved both, people who are having some trouble getting going, but also people who are pushing the envelope and are really trying some of the advanced features in Brightspace. We've also created a number of video tutorials. Brightspace has quite a collection. The teacher trainers have made videos as new skills have been highlighted, and the tech department has done that as well. And we have to give credit really to all the teachers in the field for supporting their peers, sharing their discoveries, solutions, suggestions, and questions. We're really all learning, together as we go through this. So the professional development has really been a team effort. What's going well? It seems that Brightspace provides a good place for schools to post material that everybody in the school is going to see. All students have access to the same school page as do teachers. And so as an example of that, students at Morse have been ordering their lunch, through a link that's on the main school-wide page. So that seems to be working pretty well. Family engagement, 534 parents have accessed their Brightspace accounts. That's not everybody. I'll talk about some challenges around that, but a significant effort is going into to get students on the parents and families on the platform and able to use the tool. Teachers, I'd say just about all teachers are able to use Brightspace to communicate with their students and families and distribute materials. Most teachers are able to collect work, provide feedback and grades to their students through Brightspace. And some teachers are reporting that they really think this is a great way to do it, and they're actually finding some efficiency gains. That's not across the board. Many teachers are getting used to this, but there does seem to be some potential for this to work really well for teachers and students. Many teachers are starting to use something called the content feed that isn't just kind of a stream of posts about things, but it organizes materials in a sequential manner, into units for their students. So students launch a unit and then it moves them through the materials and the assignments that they have. And some teachers are moving into more advanced Brightspace tools, things like quizzes, discussions, portfolios. There's really, quite a lot here, and we're just starting to use a little bit of it, and some of our cutting edge teachers are doing a nice job with that. I think that we have to take, to give credit to ourselves and all the teachers in the district for, tackling a really tough project here. Whenever we take on something new, certainly when we took on Infinite Campus or started with Google Classroom, there were startup challenges, and we've really asked teachers to make a quick, heavy lift that's really required a lot of problem solving, patience, resilience under difficult circumstances. Not just Brightspace wasn't the only change that we've made here. We've also moved to a hybrid, so teachers all of a sudden we're seeing teachers their kids every other day, and lots of other adjustments as well. Our challenges. We decided to pilot this program sort of just as we were doing live deployment. I think in normal times, we might well have picked a number of teachers at different grade levels and spent a semester having them stub their toes and try things out and learn best practices. But we've really enlisted the entire staff to do that. And I think some benefit has come from that, but that's also been a challenge as well. Learning management systems are complicated, and all the ways of doing things that teachers were used to, that's been disrupted, and that's been difficult. As I mentioned, and Katie mentioned, we've had the additional challenges of moving to hybrid and distance learning, and certainly during those professional development days at the beginning of the year, there were lots of other protocols that we were working into our system as well. Additionally, there was really no pre-existing institutional knowledge of Brightspace. As tech integrator, when I help people with Google Classroom or Infinite Campus or most of the things that were being used in the classroom, I had years of firsthand experience doing that, but we didn't have that, and so we're all learning that together. When you pick up something like this, we need to anticipate that it's a multi-year effort, and we've taken this on all at once. Our specific challenges, reaching more parents. We've reached quite a few, but some 352 haven't activated that yet. And we're looking into that and doing some exploring and doing some research to make sure that everybody's engaged and is on. Moving to, Brightspace is pretty complicated. There's a lot to it. So there's lots of settings, new routines and protocols for the new system. And there's been some trial and error here, quite frankly, at the beginning. A lot of teachers talk about there being lots of clicks to set something up. And that means that there's lots of choices. And oftentimes there's lots of choices because there's lots of power, but there's also lots of potential wrong turns. And we've spent the first month or so sorting a lot of these things out. Some things we were struggling with early on, we're not doing that anymore. Some examples of things we've been addressing recently are missing assignment reports. Teachers and students were getting reports of assignments that they didn't think they were missing, and sort of nobody's fault here, but people are getting used to the system. Some of that was created by the A-B cohorts that we have. We've never had a situation where kids in the same class were coming in alternate due days and having alternate due dates. And some experimentation early on with that, created some missing assignment reports. We tried to provide some tools for cleaning that up, and we're in the process of doing that. The whole ways of submitting work. There's one way to do that and through Google Classroom and other platforms. And now there's some different ways, and we're making adjustments to that. There's also the sort of balancing standardization, which was a goal of this, to have a more consistent way of looking this, but also giving teachers the flexibility to problem solve and use the tools, as they see fit, on their own. And so teachers are making different choices, and that's helping us see some of the potential of the thing. But they're coming up with different solutions, and they're coming up with different problems. And so sometimes students are having, different experiences with Brightspace. For example, some teachers are relying heavily on the activity feed. If you look in there, you'll see every assignment, every piece of material that's done. And some teachers are going at using that a little bit less and, creating units with content. Just different choices are having it not quite so standard. I think our next challenge is, capitalizing on all the things that we've learned over the first couple of months, sharing those best practices, continuing to identify the common errors and solutions. And there's also, we've gotten some constructive feedback, about Brightspace, how could the system be improved? And I know that, our staff Matt Fry Davis is in touch with them and, improving the product, as part of the program as well. So that's a quick overview of where we are with Brightspace, and I'll sign off here.
Before you go, Katie, do you want questions from Bob, or do you want to finish?
No, that was the gist of the conversation. So now all three of us can take questions about Brightspace or comments.
Bob's comments were directed at his work with teachers, not the parent, in familiarizing them with Brightspace, right? So Dean was going to cover that. So.
In case there are specific questions about for parents, I think when Bob was talking about not everybody having access yet and some of the issues that were coming up, those were related to both students, parents, and teachers. So there's nothing else separate about parents we were going to share.
Okay. So questions for Bob,
Yeah.
Dean, or Katie?
I have a few for Bob, but anyone can answer. First of all, I appreciate the email that went out today to everyone to at least acknowledge, just to hear from the district that you're all aware of, obviously you're aware, but to let parents know that you're aware of some of the bumps in the road. And so I appreciated that as a parent. And it actually prompted me to go on to one of my student accounts, one student I don't usually have to worry about too much. And there were 15 things showing as missing, which are not missing, and which prompted another whole conversation. And so having the knowledge that everyone knows that this stuff is not really missing is helpful, but it did go down the road with a 15-year-old that was not so pleasant. And if you're doing that every single day, if you're a parent who's having to chase these assignments, it's at least reassuring to know that people know that it's a problem and we're trying to fix it. The question is, do you have I know that it's a potentially multi-year rollout, but is there a deadline, for example, of just maybe, okay, on this month or at this grade check, we're going to try to clear up all the missing to give kind of that fresh start for parents?
So last week we distributed to staff a short video as well as a set of instructions on how to address the erroneous missing reports tags. And they had some time during Late Start Wednesdays last week, and we are following up, making appointments with teachers to help them clean those up. So I think it'll take them a little while. Those are basically created in a number of ways. Bob alluded to the AB cohort group. Yeah. They also are created, as an example, if a teacher says, here's the assignments, and I want you to turn that into me through Google Classroom, or not Classroom, but through Google Share or something like that. It still isn't being submitted through Brightspace, and so Brightspace doesn't realize that it has been submitted. So it requires, there are basically 4 different ways that those get fixed, if you will, or changed.
Yeah.
So they're in the process right now of updating that. Hopefully within, within a week or so, those will be removed. But it takes time, and everybody is also trying to teach, and so we're there to help, but it'll definitely take them a little bit of time.
And then my other question was, and you might be covering this in your piece anyway, is I know parents really have been trying to work with teachers individually, which is quite often usually the best way. But is there still a help desk where you get a ticket from IT? And if so, is that something that's working well, or is that something we're not really using anymore?
No, we absolutely use the help desk, and it is flourishing. We typically at this time of the year might have 50 to 80 tickets, and we have been as high as 500 this year. So I think we're currently at 340 some odd. So the ticketing system is up, it's functioning, it's available both to those of us who have at rsu1.org email addresses as well as to the public. And we continue to take tickets and address them as quickly as we can.
When the ticket response comes back, is it from the info? I didn't notice. Is it from the info at RSU1, or is it a specific technology email? Because I think a lot of the infos seem to get thrown to spam sometimes.
The info at is typically through our basically ThrillShare, which is the alert system that we use, as well as a communications tool. So I think that's where most of those emails come from. And yeah, I'm not sure, different people's email is more stringent than others about identifying spam and classifying it that way.
Those are my 2 big questions.
You would just need to set your email to accept it as non-spam, basically.
Once you've made it.
Yeah, many email systems will allow you to whitelist or right click on an email sender and add it to a whitelist so that they're no longer blocked. But I'll make a note. That would be a good. I don't think we have that on our webpage as far as a tip for people. We'll add that.
Questions, Jen?
Yeah, this question is for, I don't know who it's for exactly, but is there a way that Brightspace could be configured to have a smaller delivery of options to parents? I mean, is in part, maybe there are too many options. Could we configure it so it's got fewer of those options, and maybe that would help somebody who is not a staff member or a student that doesn't use it as often?
I'm sorry, like what would you?
I don't know. I'm just wondering some of the input from parents to be able to navigate it. I mean, can it be configured to have a outward facing look to it that would be very different than what a student or a teacher would see?
It is. Actually, the parent view is specific to parents. It shows them I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. It provides a summary to them. And then if they click on one of their students, then they get basically, again, a summary. It shows the activity feed, upcoming assignments, and possibly past due or missing assignments. That's basically what it shows the parent. There's also a portfolio section, which, depending on the teacher, is really becoming popular at the elementary school. It's a way for teachers to identify materials that students have done that they think are particularly well done and that maybe they want to share with parents. It's also a way to share maybe a photo of students in the classroom, of their student in the classroom, and they wish to push that out to families and things too. So that view is quite different.
My other question is there anything that we could do to help you get through those hundreds and hundreds of help desk tickets that are out there pending? I mean, is there anything that could be helped? Because I know how that's like. I've worked at help desk before in my professional life. Completely understand what you're trying to do on so many levels, but is there anything that we can do to help that at all?
Not really. I mean, you've been terrific, and the support of the board has been great. We actually just had a new staff person start last week, and so we are in the process of training a new person, and I think that will make a significant difference in our ability to get those tickets down and get people the help they need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking.
She just wants you to trim your beard. Trying to direct more attention to it. Any other questions? I didn't recognize you at first. I have to say, beard over on the side when Bob was talking. I said, must be one of the folks who tuned in to watch. Any other questions? Questions of Dean? And I guess I just have a question for Dean and Bob both. I mean, as we pivot our for example, we've today Pittsburgh went with 100% students in class. Is there any applicability, and maybe it is just because I don't completely understand Brightspace, and that's possible. I have had the opportunity, as some board members have, to access it because they have students in the school. But is this a system that has flexibility or utility regardless of the instructional mode that we're currently in?
Yeah, I certainly think so. It's designed for both in-person as well as remote learning. It's an opportunity. It's really no different than, we used to go into classrooms and we still do go into classrooms, but we're looking for learning targets and the work for the day and examples around the room of the activities that students are engaged with. And this is just a digital version of those same things. And so teachers can still bring students into the classroom. They can have those things on the board, but they're also accessible to the students no matter where they're located. I mean, they see those tools and resources when they're in their class and they use them, but then they also can go back and refer to them in the evenings and nights and weekends when they're studying. So I think it has application for both in-person as well as distance.
I think there's also, we're going to gain some efficiencies down the road. Initially here, teachers are putting materials that they might have had someplace else or been delivering slightly differently. Some of that is going into Brightspace. I know of at least one teacher who's using rubrics effectively in Brightspace. And, that'll be an effective tool. And once things are set up, they're set up and they can be reused the next semester. Morse is doing basically a full year courses in a semester, with double the time. And a couple teachers have mentioned already that they see themselves using the materials that they set up during semester one, during semester two. And that process will be, much easier the second time around.
Excuse me, this is Sandra. Can I add that the teachers at Phippsburg are still planning to use that as we return full in person, and we've had several teachers reach out to families and remind them of the platform, and also encourage them to have their students use them at home to close the gap from some of the things that they've missed in the past 6 months. So some extra practice at home with all the things that we've done, and creating assignments on Brightspace will help inside and outside of school.
Thanks. You had indicated, I don't know whether it was Dean or Bob had indicated that there's still a few hundred parents, I think it was 350 parents that we have not yet accessed their accounts. What steps are we taking to engage those folks specifically?
Well, right now we're going through that list and trying to identify what it is about the account that is keeping them from being active. Some of them, the emails have been sent, perhaps they're sitting in their spam folder. In some cases, what we have is the activation, the synchronization, if you will, between Infinite Campus, which is where all of our demographic data for families reside, is synced over to Brightspace. And when they go through that process of associating a parent with a student, sometimes there could be something in there that breaks. Maybe there's the student account was disabled for some reason. And in our community, commonly what happens is that we have students who had been students that, or excuse me, with parents who were once students themselves, or perhaps they had students who were in the district but they've left, and so those IC accounts are disabled simply because they no longer needed them. And so that process, basically, it just takes time. We're working through reports of these are the accounts and these are the, you know, is it a demographic issue? Is it an account activation issue on the IC side, or is it on the Brightspace side? And so it's just a matter, it's a slow process of trying to get out to those people specifically to find out what they need in order to get into the system.
Okay, but we're being proactive here, I guess is my.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, further questions for Dean, Bob, or Katie, or Patrick on this? You have more to add on the opening?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bob, thanks for branching out into the K-5 world. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Okay, item 10.0, superintendent's report. Patrick, 10.1.
Yeah, just a couple items. Hopefully you noticed in the backup that our principals are doing their best to try to come up with some all-school activities to help motivate and encourage students. And just a couple to mention. Some involve technology, obviously, but some, are just, again, trying to bring kids together. But the bit of buzz at Dyke Newell, mock election about the best things in Maine at Fisher Mitchell, and also what Tanner mentioned, the Spirit Week activities at Morse. And there's all kinds of other things going on, but just a few things to mention, again, to try to bring that sense of normalcy back to school. At the high school, just to give, Eric put it in his report, besides the athletics, we also have numerous clubs up and running, and including drama and the fall play. Our Town will be later this week. And then lastly, I just think it's worth mentioning, it was in Julie's report, but the Melmac grant. And given that, we cannot visit college campuses right now or businesses, thank you to Katie Clark for creating a Brightspace course that for college and career readiness that deals with things such as FAFSA, virtual college information. Again, trying to motivate, trying to encourage students to think about that next step is very important. So thank her for doing that related to college, but also career related resources as well. That's all I have.
Thanks, Patrick. You brought up in it, well, when you mentioned the college experience just now, and I wonder how Maria, how jobs remain graduates is going. You know, or could we, maybe we could get a report from Maria next month, or at our next meeting. Okay, 10.2, financial report. Patrick, Deb, are you out there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
So tonight we're looking at the September report for the general fund. We've spent $4 million to date. So the spending has started and we're on a full scale right now with all the teacher salaries starting to hit the budget as of September. And it's early, so the analysis begins. And as we move forward, we'll just keep our eyes on things to see where we're at in these different times. The revenue is all flowing in as expected. There's a couple of areas. As far as tuition, I looked today at the budget versus actual, and we're actually 6 students down from what we had budgeted. But as long as the rates come in a little bit higher than what we had budgeted, we should be fine there. Student activity account, we probably will not meet the full budgeted amount for that because we're not having the amounts of fees come through that we did before for sports games and that type of thing. But we'll keep our eyes on that. One area that I do think we definitely need to keep our eyes on is food service, which you don't see on this report because it's reported in a separate fund. But we're not bringing in the daily sales revenue. Hopefully our state revenue will be where we were last year because the meals are at a little bit higher reimbursement. But last year for daily sales, we brought in $260,000. So we just need to really keep our eyes on that because our spending will be down a little bit and our salaries are down a little bit because of the Wednesdays. But that's an area that we really need to keep our eyes on as we move forward. We have 3 pots of money, as you know, for the coronavirus relief funds. The first pot, which lasts for 2 years, we have a balance of about $265,000 in that account. So that is going as planned. We have the additional nursing that's happening in that fund. And that's good for 2 years. The 1.6 million coronavirus relief fund, we've spent about $500,000, and we have until December, to the end of December, to try to whittle that away. Patrick has applied for the additional 1.7 million for Corona Relief Fund number 2, and he should be receiving word at any time whether that's all been approved. Lastly, the Morse High School account is, we spent about 80%. So we're down to about $15 million in that account. And everything's on schedule in that fund. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Any questions of Deb? No? Okay, thanks very much, Deb.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, 11.0, old business. These are our action items. We have 4 policies on second reading. And we can go through, read each of them individually, or should we vote on them as a group? Let's take them all together. So
Yeah.
I'll identify them each. So the second reading of board policy ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment of students. The second reading of board policy ACAA-R, student discrimination / harassment and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedure. The second reading of board policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees. And last, the second reading of board policy ACAB-R, employee discrimination / harassment and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures. So these are all action items. I have a motion to approve. We have a motion by Jennifer, second by Megan. Any discussion? Any questions outstanding on these?
I have something,
Yep.
mostly clarification, because it's a lot of info. So I'm seeing 2 that deal with students, 2 that deal with employees. And then I have where's the 5th one, the non-discrimination?
That's a first reading. That's a new policy.
Yep.
AC, is that what you're talking about?
Yep, I am, okay, yep. And then in the student, and maybe Jen or Megan, because you're both on policy, right? Policy thing? Maybe.
Anita is too. Yeah.
Okay.
We have 3.
Oh, that's right. For the student, it didn't pop out to me. Do parents, if there's a complaint made, whether it's just from a teacher or something more formal, do parents ever come into notification to parents? It didn't jump out to me where parents get brought in.
Hers get what?
Brought,
Brought
notified,
in,
notified.
involved in the process.
Yep. And it could be there. I just went through it a few times and maybe it's just so obvious that I'm not seeing it. So that was just one question I had. Or maybe Patrick, just from,
Yeah, from our experiences, we
Your
always,
experience.
yeah, we're always circling back around. I mean, I think at first, there's a lot of red in this thing. On the second page of the ACAA, it's under C, it does talks about, students, and then it says parents, legal guardians, and other individuals strongly encouraged to report. And, I mean, that's the reporting part of it. But as far as getting back to, I mean, Katie does, Katie and, we have another person in the district, affirmative action, but Katie's Title IX. Certainly goes back after we do an investigation, loops back to the parents, and informs them and communicates with them.
and that would include not only the person making the complaint, but
Yes.
the person who the complaint might be against.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I figured, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, those are my only questions through all of it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we have a motion by Jen, second by Megan, all in favor? Any opposed? Lou and Bill?
Aye for Lou.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lou. Okay, item 12.0, new business. 12.1, Patrick, personnel items.
Yeah, we just have 2 retirements. I'd like to thank Deb Shearer for 33 years of service to the district as an ed tech at BMS right now, and she'll be done this Friday. So it's just a schedule that worked for her, and so we wish her the best. And then the other retirement is at the end of this year is Steve Richard, who was a tech ed teacher here at BMS, and I'd like to thank Steve for 20 years of service to RSU1.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, 12.2 is the first reading of board policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and affirmative action. So this is not an action item tonight, but if there are questions that folks would like the personnel or the policy committee to explore or respond to, this would be an opportunity to raise those questions. If not, the policy will come back at our next meeting as an action item. Okay, thanks. Item 11.3, Lorna is our MSBA representative at the annual gathering.
A delegate assembly.
The delegate assembly, thank you. And these are the proposed resolutions that Lorna will go over with us. So,
So the delegate assembly, of course, is virtual. The MSBA delegate assembly is virtual and it's Friday. And I'm flying blind a little bit, but I talked to Patrick and I also had the pleasure of talking to Alan yesterday. Because Alan was always your delegate before. And of course, Alan said I'm gonna miss a lot of good handouts and food. So that's a bummer. But he was helpful. So essentially the resolutions before us, you got in your packet, are going to be voted on. Each delegate will take to the assembly thoughts from their board on whether to vote for or not. And so from what I'm reading, what you've seen, I think we're all, as far as development of distance learning plans, obviously we're doing that right now. Building stronger family support for education. I would say our discussion on Brightspace is a good indication that we're trying to, that's one medium on which we're trying to do that. And hopefully as we go along, we continue outreach to families. Equity in education, and Patrick, feel free to chime in. This is one where I'm probably a little bit less understanding of what the resolution is. I mean, it's common sense, right? Equity in education. But it talks about a self-analysis of our district on any unknown bias or overt bias in our offerings. I talked to Alan about this, and Alan was helpful too in that, to him in his experience, dealing with so many schools under one umbrella and making sure kids across the river have the same educational experience as kids on this side of the river is something he was passionate about. So I think it goes beyond just the obvious of equity and diversity, but also just offerings. That was kind of his spin on it, and his thought on it. And then of course, board meeting and remote participation were also very well experienced in at this point. So unless you have something specific you want me to bring to the assembly, that's what we're looking at, we'll be voting on.
I have a couple of comments, but anybody have any? One thing, I've written to Steve Bailey, but not gotten much response, and that was to encourage a group to look at different metrics as they apply to school success. I mean, I think we've talked about this, before, and actually the COVID experience even brings it more to the front for me anyways. I mean, schools are doing things that I think, I wouldn't suggest they're not unappreciated, because I think people recognize what schools have been faced with and the responsibilities that schools have taken on. But those aren't, as far as I'm concerned, I could be completely wrong on this, but they aren't reflected in the formal metrics that measure the success of educational institutions in the state. We are still measured by test scores, by academic measures primarily, but the role of schools in dealing with food insecurity and dealing with mental health issues are really important. And it would be great if we could, again, in a formal sense, if those could be included as part of a set of metrics that DOE looks at, when it decides whether or not we're successful or not. We keep coming back to test scores.
Right.
How are our kids performing on math and English, which is incredibly important, obviously, but it's not all we do. And so that would be one thing. The other, in the remote meeting participation, as the oldest guy sitting at this table, I can tell you that sometimes my perspective is that technology is an ageist kind of thing. People understand. I mean, there seems to be a direct relationship to age and how well and how comfortable you are with technology and how quickly you pick up technology. And I'm just mindful that we have a constituent group out there, and they're largely older folks without kids in the system, but they are from a financial support perspective, as well as encouraging the district. I mean, these folks still have deep connections, emotional connections to the school system. They pay taxes. That's where the financial side of this comes in. But technology can pass them by sometimes. And if I understand this motion, this resolution, But it would be, it's also important to recognize that we can't make this and I don't think anyone wants to do this, to repeat this experience and make this a virtual, to hold our meetings virtually going forward.
Only
Because,
virtually, yeah.
all virtually going forward because of the,
Yeah.
because of the ease of doing it to
Yeah.
some extent.
Right.
I mean, arguably, we can meet from our houses, from our desks. But it does, in my mind, it does exclude a bunch of folks who would like to participate, I think, and have a need to stay informed.
Yeah.
So we've got to, in my mind, we've got to measure this pivot, from this pivot into technology, into more and more technology.
Right.
This really came to mind. We were doing a family Zoom meeting with a bunch of my cousins who were my age, my peers, and believe it or not, I was much more comfortable with Zoom than they were, and that was a frightening thing. But folks, people out there who have no need to use some of these technologies just aren't really comfortable with them. They don't understand them.
Steve, it's the difference between being a digital immigrant or a digital native is how they describe that.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at people having to translate as you would if you were speaking a foreign language in a foreign country, and how to translate everything that you do and how you think about things into a different language.
Yeah.
And so that means that everyone has to think how I do something and then how do I do it here? And our digital natives are our children who've grown up with, they don't need to translate how I do, they do within technology. And that is often, as you say, a generational and age-specific difference. And it is true, it does exclude people, just like having English as a second language barriers excludes people because it's another language that you don't speak and don't think in.
And I mention it because it's those folks remain an important constituent group of ours. I mean, we have students, we have parents, we have teachers, but again, we also have this community of folks out there who have a tangential relationship to the schools, but are still part of our tax base. I mean, they pay the bills. In fact, there are more of them. There are more of them than there are parents. And people who have a much more direct, tangible connection to the school. So we shouldn't forget them, and hopefully, as it doesn't, it's a little bit off track from what this resolution is. But it just brought that to mind when I read the resolution.
And it's, without knowing what the legislation would look like, it does seem that it could still remain a local decision. And if there's a way, there's a way to even have the in-person, but continue to stream like we have been. Because I think even parents, the younger parents, far younger than me, have been pretty vocal that they've missed the opportunity to come stand before and speak to us in person. But I also have enjoyed the increased participation for people who don't necessarily want to say anything, but have a chance, they'll Zoom while they're making dinner, watch the meeting, and I think that's great. Because now we've increased our involvement.
No, there's opportunity here. We just shouldn't go one. We shouldn't go
Agreed.
one way
No,
or the
I
other
agree.
completely.
I agree completely. I don't think any of us want this new normal to stick for very long.
I have a point, if I may, for the board meeting administration. One thing that may be kind of hard to work out is how, I know we've gotten public comments that are pointing out the bumps in the participation in virtual meetings. So I'm just wondering, how it's going to be for folks who aren't ready to go to, live meetings or can't for whatever reason, how their voices are going to be heard during public discussion in relation to those who are there with the microphones.
You're right. So it's having that flexibility on deciding what's best. or even both.
Oh, yeah.
would- Yeah,
Yeah, because it almost becomes a dual.
Yeah.
You can see the advantages of doing both.
yeah. I mean, I like the idea of the forum, and I think this time people are probably just, at this point, I think people have spoken. The link did work, and I found the form pretty easy. I didn't fill it out, obviously, but, you know, if we were able to do that in the future, to have that as an option, you know, to take so many calls, in conjunction with people being in person. Who knows? But I like the flexibility idea, and I like that it still would be a local decision. Any other thoughts?
Anything else? Or it's not gonna get fed at this,
Mhm.
delegate meeting?
No feeding,
No feeding.
no being away from the office.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lauren. Any other business that comes before us that you're not? Jennifer?
Just two comments. One is, I really appreciated reading through the board reports, how many options are available. We figured out how to make available on Wednesdays in our current hybrid process. I was really very impressed and pleased that there were, in every school, there were different options to meet different family needs and different student needs. On the Wednesdays when we are typically not having kids in school. So I want to thank everybody who's worked hard to answer all of our student needs by creating more opportunities on Wednesdays. And then the second thing is I just wanted to take a second to congratulate you, Steve, on your 2020 Citizen of the Year Award from Bath. They mentioned in an article I read that he is the nuts and bolts work that needs to get done with a lot of volunteer organizations, including not just your work here, but also your work on health and at the Patent Free Library. So I want to thank you, knowing how much work that you give to our communities and your leadership and the work that you also put in here. It's a lot of volunteer hours, and I appreciate it. Congratulations. I'm glad
Thanks.
you're-
Thanks. Thank you. I have to say, when I gave a brief couple of words when they handed me the certificate, and that was to throw it back at all of you. I said that, you know, I really, I accept the award, but it really acknowledges all the volunteers in our community, and really our communities thrive because of the volunteers that work with not-for-profits and governmental units like the school board. But it's what makes, I'm not going to say Bath because it involves Maine more generally, but it's what makes Maine really, as the political ad says, just seem to be a small community, you know, rather than a big state. But thank you very much. Okay, so we're 13.0. We're going to, we have a board meeting scheduled for Monday, the 23rd, right before Thanksgiving. And it's going to be here again at the middle school. There will be phone calling again for comment. So we'll keep that going, as someone asked earlier in the meeting. 14.0 is an adjournment, but I do want to certainly, not that the board needs to be reminded, but just to comment to those folks out there who are listening in. We're adjourning to that next regular board meeting, but don't be surprised at all if we are called back before then for a special meeting as Patrick and Katie and principals and continue to work on refining our plan for our schools here in the district. So not that you have a choice, because you can't go anywhere anyways, but perhaps we'll see you before the 21st. So if not, if we get a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Lorna, second by Megan.
Second.
All in favor?
Really good. Second.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Lou, Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because then we have another closed adjournment.